Hey everybody, so we are here in Schuylkill Haven, Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania. We are at the railroad station here in Schuylkill Haven. This is it's very, very different. When we flip around the camera, like a lot of the stations we've been to have been sort of more of a brick type stone, more of a reddish hue, whereas this is like I'm not sure what kind of stone this is, but it's like a really, really impressive station. But they also have here a bunch of these really neat rail cars behind us. So we're going to go around the station. We'll talk about the history afterwards, after we go around and show you the station in its entirety. This is another one of those stations that, like Minersville, we were at Tamaqua, which will come up before this one. They're all sort of on that road with, I think Port Clinton's another one. I believe it goes up to Jim Thorpe, and there's probably maybe other one or two towns along there where these trains will actually stop. They went and bought, some guy bought all these rail lines, and then he has it so it's available. They do it through, I believe it's called the Reading, Blue Mountain and Northern Railroad Company. I believe they're the group that sort of runs some of these trains or runs the lines. A lot of these were Reading Railroad, Pennsylvania Railroad lines that sort of combined over time. But really stunning station, much like Tamaqua. This is another one that the community came in, made it beautiful again, and it's here preserved. And we're going to visit this. So let's turn this around. We're going to go check out the rail cars first. So here we're going to cross the tracks. You guys can see some of these neat cars. This is Tennessee Valley, one of these, I assume like a newer passenger car, probably from 50s era, 40s, 50s, because this clearly would not be the cars that they would have used back in the day, back in the 1800s when the railroads were really, passenger traffic was in its heyday. I believe this one is a Carolina one. I walked by or drove by on the other side, and this has a little bit of a look of an older car. I think it's Carolina Southern, I believe, but it's just sort of L&L Railroad. Just pretty darn neat seeing these old rail cars somebody bought and brought here. Now these, from what I can see, are not restored, but they're here and have that possibility of being able to be restored at some point. And one of the things I've talked about before, some of these rail stations, depends on local historians and stuff like that. A lot of them, they have quite a bit of history. Then other ones, it's sort of hard to find some of the history. And this would be a newer one as well, from the 1900s. This one, as far as I can see, doesn't have any kind of markings. And the last one's the same thing, where it's one of the newer passenger cars. Sort of got that Greyhound bus type look from the 50s. It's got the metal siding. But here it is. Schuylkill Haven Station. Like I said, it just has that unique look, and then you have where the people would be waiting to load, be loaded onto or get onto the train. Just have the chimney over there. It's just a really neat looking station. I love how they have some of the old signs as well. Railroad employees only. I love this too. There's a guy, I found this guy, I think it's History is a Blast. I'll post his YouTube page or channel for you guys in the comments, but I love it as a caution, look out for mailbag when train passes. Because it's something you don't know. The trains didn't stop for the post office type stuff. There would be a hook that would be here somewhere, and they would sort of launch the bag, or they'd hold it out would be more like they'd hold it out and it would catch this ring type thing. And you had to be good at it, because if you messed up, you'd break your arm. But that's why they said look out for the mail bag. That's something they had there, so you didn't get blasted in the side of the head with one of those heavy mail bags. It was probably 80 pounds or something like that. They were pretty brutal. I'm not even sure if they had, they did, I saw a series on, I believe it was, it's an English series. There's these people that do, I just love the writing, the font, but another cool sign. Do not cross after train passes until sure no train is approaching on any track. And I love the one too, they have the no coal picking over there as well, because that was something, you know, families had to do in like the Great Depression. It's like then they weren't real fond of that because they didn't want kids to get hit and stuff like that. But there's another one. The baggage carts are just so neat. But anyways, they didn't want the kids out there because they get hit by the train or something along those lines. But you know, another ticket office sign. I'll try to get up here against the window and hopefully you guys can see inside. Sometime hopefully we'll be able to get in here. You see they have a mannequin there, number of big trains. One is a Strasbourg, but it's recreated as what the station would have looked like. I know the one in Tamaqua, the station that's currently there, that has been there since I believe 1870s. They have an old potbelly stove in there. I saw they too, they had one of those, it's one of these unique, you put coins in back in the day, and it's right over right there. I don't know how you guys can see it there. I'm looking at the phone there, but it'd be one of those things where it had pictures, and you just sort of, they were renowned for having somewhat naughty things on them sometimes, but it was a way the pictures would flip real fast, and you had to spin it, and you get to see in essence a movie. I really do like these big locomotives that they have in there. There's one right here. But it's just so neat that a place like this exists and it's taken care of so well. But we'll have to get in there just like the Annville station, see when they have this opened up, and then make a trip out here to check this out. So I just thought I might have heard a train bell, like the dinging. I might have just been hearing something, but anyways, we're more in this video. We'll wind out I'll talk about the history, how long this station has been here, and that type of stuff, and talk about the history. Some of these stations are a little difficult, like Likens. Strangely, that train station had a lot of history, and I guess it just sort of depends on who is tracking the history and that type of stuff. But like some really, really impressive history that they had, a lot of pictures. Whereas other stations like Minersville, even though they were probably a more important station, a much busier line, there's just not a whole lot there. And it just sort of is what it is. But anyways, hopefully we have a bunch of history on this, and we'll share that with you guys coming up.
So it's difficult to know exactly when a lot of the information, there actually is quite a bit on the one website that I got to do more research on. But it seems like, from what I've been able to read, around 1840 is when the railroads first started, more of one of those localized type railroad operations started. Eventually, Philadelphia and Reading Railroad would come in. Looks like maybe as early as 1845. Schuylkill Haven at around that time of 1845 was becoming probably the fastest growing town within Schuylkill County. They actually eventually would make an operation there that was ridiculously substantial. This wasn't just this rail station, which the original rail station probably would have been in the 1850s to 1860s, the first rail station. This particular rail station was built in 1902 and would have continued operation, probably passenger service, until the 1960s. I haven't found an exact date yet when the last passenger service would have been discontinued. But usually a lot of these stations, it would have been 1960s, and they would have continued to do freight whether it would be coal or whatever it would have been that they all would have done, probably into the 1970s, and that's when some of these older railroads like Philadelphia and Reading would have been sold to like Conrail or someone of that nature, and then the track rights would have went to them. Um, but it really was, like, when I say a hub, I mean an actual hub. They would have had uh, all kinds of working buildings, not just freight stations and things like this. This was a massive operation. They actually had repair shops for locomotives, for the cars. This was a gigantic operation in Schuylkill Haven. It was one of the biggest in the county. Pottsville would have probably been the biggest, but even then, at this time in 1845, Schuylkill Haven was a growing, industrious town. The Industrial Revolution would have been just starting and going on. So this would have been one of the pinnacle towns of this county. And it would have been on a line that went down to Philadelphia, being Philadelphia and Reading Railroad. So this was an extraordinarily important stop as well. But 1902 is when they built this current station, which is so stunning, so unique, because most of them, like I said earlier, most of them are either brick or, say, wood that we visited to this point. This is quite a bit different. And it was built in that way for a reason, because this was one of the top stations in that area on this line that went, down to Philadelphia. So its importance is sort of met with its opulence, and it's just one of these stunning figures within the community. To be able to still see that today is really an amazing station. And the history, maybe at some point we'll wind up going delving much further when I'm able to do a lot more research. But really, they have a ton of information on this. It was just finding the right avenue that they had, along with some really amazing pictures. So at some point, when I do a little bit more and delve a little bit more into this station, we will have the pictures from the past, talk about exactly what was there, and just the history in general. So as always, I want to say thank you, everybody, for coming along, and we will see you all about town.